Today, four of our teams participating in the semi-finals of the Nedbank Cup are heading to camp in a bubble. They are prepared for the resumption of the matches tomorrow. It is going to be a new normal. I can indicate on the outside that 3 of the teams arrived yesterday. 1 of the teams arriving today. It is a first in our country. It is a test case on which we as a nation will be able to develop a practical model other sporting codes and event organizers will learn from. This might be a new normal and a new template. An achievement of this magnitude is never a sole effort of one man, women organization. We are grateful to the stakeholders that strengthened our hand to arrive at this point. Living in a democracy, we have a government of the people that is charged with protecting the nation. The balancing act between a safe return to economic activities whilst looking after the health of citizens has meant working closely with the government and the health experts. The Ministry and the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture has been particularly helpful in their guidance and counsel towards the safe resumption of play. Laws and regulations will be drafted and gazetted in keeping with our rule of law. We are pleased and encouraged by the Department's commendation of our effort this far. We are geared and ready to commence the actual play. The football governing body of our country, SAFA, helped us in liaisons and coordination with the government and World Football Governing Body, FIFA, to achieve necessary extensions, and without which confusion and chaos would easily have resulted. Once again, the Department, SAFA and the PSL have proven the ability for South Africans to be able to put heads together to solve the most difficult of national challenges when excuses exist to take expedient decisions. Thanks to the Minister Natim Tetwa and Dr. Dini Jordan, President of SAFA. It is important that this league be concluded in the field of play. It helps uphold an integrity that supporters and other stakeholders require in a sport they are so heavily invested. South African Police Service role is indispensable for an event organizer of our magnitude, as we need to ensure adherence with the law. We were again able to work together with SAPS to achieve what needed to be achieved. Besides all the pressures in having to deal with the pandemic, the Gauteng provincial government was particularly responsive in enabling our safe return to play. The Ministry and Department of Transport provisions for interprovincial travel helped teams from their respective provinces to assemble in Gauteng. The hotel industry, in particular Tsogo Sun, and the Tourism Board in Gauteng have been essential in helping us create safe environments that are necessary parts of a seamless bubble. Also thank the facility owners and training venues and match venues who made this available within a short space of time. It's difficult, it's winter, it's a challenge. The greater human resource work rests with the clubs. The plan is strict and costly. It is costly monetarily and the vigilance it requires. The integrity of the bubble can be compromised by one irresponsible or ignorant person. It is part of the plan to repair the cracks that will occur as we implement. I particularly want to thank the clubs for their effort to date. I know it's not been very easy. To the players, who are the real soldiers on the ground, whereas every precaution has been taken, it will continue to be taken until at the end. I thank you for your frontline role. Your performance is the final arbiter of the strategy and plans. It is you that the supporters are yearning to see. As an employer organization, we thank SAFPU, South African Players Union. The representation of players' lives and livelihood were well represented in our deliberations. We do everything we do for our supporters. The beautiful game is about supporters. The exciting part about the safe and resumption of the play is that supporters will reclaim their space. Their conversations will regain their flow. I know you miss PSL football. Please note that football missed you. A special thanks to our broadcasting partner, our sponsors and suppliers, who could legally have held us into contempt of no deliverables, chose to be supportive corporate citizens that have worked with us to combat the challenges. I said at the beginning that it's never a one-man, woman organization's achievement. I need at this stage to say thanks to the Executive Committee, the Board of Governors of the PSL, the 32 clubs, and the PSL staff. More importantly, to both the CEO of SAFA and the CEO of the PSL for working seamlessly together with their compliance officers to make sure that we deal with all the administrative issues seamlessly. Ladies and gentlemen, I conclude in my gratitude, you members of the media, your coverage of the pandemic, its effects and the challenges we needed to overcome, help the public to be informed. This is a necessary ingredient towards meeting the challenges that needs all of us working together in concert to address. It is important, as we return to the fields of play, to take note that we do so in Women's Month. This is a reminder that we, when we face new challenges, we do not abandon our old strategies and old struggles. In fact, we need to intensify our efforts because the marginalized will inevitably disproportionately suffer more going forward. Our return to play will therefore include an intensification of our United Against Gender Violence and Femicide. We in the PSL have always understood and as a result been responsive to the society we are part of. It has never been lost to us the privilege and responsibility we have resulting from our profile and reach. It is this understanding and responsibility that motivate us to champion societal causes. The PSL is united against racism, will continue in support of Black Lives Matter. I thank you. But at this stage in time, it's important for the media to get the proper briefing in terms of some of the things that they might ask questions, and I need to give clarity to them before they ask. I'll start first talk about the matches, behind closed doors, the breakdown of attendance, who is allowed and who's not allowed. Members will remember that we had to submit an application to the department. In terms of that application, the numbers that were attached to our application. And the breakdown is going to talk to the numbers we have submitted at the point of application. For players from each club, there will be in total 40, 11 starting and 9 reserves per team. Technical staff is 14/7 per team. That including coaches on the bench, assistant, physio, kitmen. The team will decide how they play it out in terms of making sure they arrive to the 7 each club. Club officials, 8. That is officials, that is compliance officers who are in charge of COVID and others that are at the discretion of the team. Ball retrievers, 4, 2 per team, but from within the BSE, an additional 1 per team from the 2 extra benches. 6 will act as retrievers on the west side, making 6 in total. Match officials, 5, 4 match officials and the commissioner. 8 medical paramedics, double up as stretcher bearers. 1 stadium doctor, 1 PSL media officer and other officials. Broadcast pitch side, 2 presenters and floor manager, 12 cameramen and 2 cable bashers. LED or static box personnel, 2. All in all, the number is 100. As I indicated, in my address, that we've got 4 teams that are participating in the semi-final of the Nedbank Cup. As of yesterday, Baroka FC, Bidvest West, Mamelodi Sundowns arrived yesterday. Bloemfontein Celtics are arriving today. Coming on the 9th, we have the teams arriving on the 9th. Is Orlando Pirates for the ABSA Premiership. Sunday the 10th is Kaizer Chiefs and Amazulu. On the 11th is Chipa United. On the 12th is Cape Town City. On the 13th is Highlands Park and Stellenbosch. On the 14th, the last group, Ramonville Colin Arrow, Supersport United, Maritzburg United, Black Leopards, and Polokwane City. That's going to be a makeup of the complement of the groups that I've indicated will be coming down to start their catch-up games Tuesday and Wednesday, then the rest of the games over the weekend. We know that the opening fixture on the 11th is Mamelodi Sundowns versus Orlando Pirates Football Club in Dobsonville at 18 hours. And on Wednesday, 12 August, Kaizer Chiefs versus Bidvest West, Orlando Stadium, 18 hours. Great Africa Championship, the first group arrived on the 7th of August at Chakuma and Real Kings. On the 8th of August, Cape Umoya United, Richards Bay and TS Sporting. On the 9th, Utongati and University of Pretoria. On Monday, 10th, JDR, Jomo Cosmos, Free State Stars, Ajax, Cape Town and Royal Eagles. The last group to arrive on the 11th will be Swallows FC, Mbombela United and Steenberg United and TX Galaxy. There will be an opening fixture, which is a catch-up fixture of the Great Africa Championship. That will be Real Kings and Cape Umoya at Tsakani Stadium at 15 hours. Then thereafter, there's a game, Richards Bay versus TS Sporting at Tax Stadium at 15 hours. Then on the 11th, well, the fixture will follow as to which was going to happen. It's going to be released to the media. If it has not been done so, then I think they're going to do that. So therefore, there's going to be other games that are taking place as per the fixture. But what is important for the media is that all these games of the Premier Division, the last game will be the end of August, and the final of the Nedbank Cup will be on the 5th of September. But there are also two alternative dates. In case one of the teams is involved in the playoffs, then it might go to the 12th of September. So those are going to be depending what happens with the results tomorrow. Thereafter, there will be a playoffs from the 6th of September to the 21st of September to make sure that we get the ultimate winner, apart from the automatic winner, into the Premier Division. Then there's about 32 officials that are already in the PSC, that is the match officials, and one fitness monitor, they're already there. There's a pre-bubble that have just arrived, 48 of them, with two fitness instructor. Obviously, after they've done the necessary compliance issues, then they'll move to the real bubble. Already, as we speak, their referees are available for the games tomorrow. 32 of them already have been there for some time. In terms of the broadcasters, in the bubble, we're expecting 198 that has been given to us to accommodate in the bubble. And there's also about, 46, crew members that has been accommodated, but it does another different, interpretation. There's also a total number of people expected in the PSC. ABSA Premiership teams, 648. Great Africa Championship, 527. Match officials, 88. Broadcasters, 198. PSC doctors, 9. PSL officials, 12. Compliance officer, 1 from SAFA and 1 from the Premier Soccer League. And one, doctor from SAFA, and the bus drivers, all of 32 of them, will also be in the bubble. Importantly also for the announcement, because I did not want to have this press conference on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, because I didn't want to take the space for today to cover the Nedbank Cup, because it's very important for them to have that sanitized space to talk about the Cup tomorrow. But it's important to talk about it today, that the registration window for the PSL has been agreed by the Executive Committee with the 22nd of September to the 17th of October. That is the first window. The second window will be 1st February 2021 to 1st March 2021. Start of the season is presumed to be the 9th of October, the commencement of the new season of the Premier Soccer League. That is a message from the PSL. If there's any question, clarification, I'm available to take them.
Okay. Thank you. So, You just switch on my microphone. That'd be fantastic. I'll take a few questions now from the members of the media. The first question, Benjamin. I think we've got the first question. Good to see you on your feet again, by the way.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Chair. No, Chairman. Sorry, Chairman. Thank you so much, sir. Benjamin from Newsroom Africa. This is obviously going to be very tough to pull off, and the minister said in the most recent press briefing he held that he does reserve the right to pull the plug should anything go wrong, particularly in terms of compliance. And at the risk of being the prophet of doom, is there a plan tucked away somewhere at the back of a drawer or room for readjustment of these dates should the minister come to, or should it all come to that eventuality?
I think the magnitude and the demand for the compliance is heavy to most of the teams. We've had the Board of Governors in the meetings, also 6-7 times, emphasizing one important thing: compliance, compliance, compliance. But what was key in that compliance was to observe the issues of health. Because unfortunately, we're dealing with the health situation, nobody can figure out how it affects us in a way or 2 or 3 or 4 that we can plan for. It's a moving target. So therefore, we've done everything humanly possible, and that is why we're the only industry in this country that when we go back to work, we went for all this necessary testing to mitigate the risk. We cannot do more than this. If anything happens beyond what we have planned for, we'll have to take the consequences. But if it's within the plan that has been now being workshopped, all this time, with all the compliance officers, with the clubs, with the Board of Governors, we've done our best. And that is why when we applied for us to restart, the health department admired our plan that is unique, which helps in the mitigation of the risk that we now know. Those that we don't know, we cannot plan for them. But we're hoping that nothing happens. We play the games to the finish. Obviously, if there's any force majeure issue situation, we have to deal with it at that particular point in time. But the most important thing that we emphasize to the Board of Governors: compliance, compliance, compliance. Nobody must compromise the PSC, because that is our setting point. That if you are in the PSC, you go out when you go to training. From training, you go to the next situation. In other diversion, you compromise the PSC. Now, if somebody does that, it's an insult to the whole country. It's a sensitivity that nobody can tolerate. But one of those things that sometimes we never plan for. But if anything is to do with the compliance in terms of what we provided to the clubs, which they've voted for and workshop for a number of months, therefore we've done everything possible. I think the minister is aware of. And also the challenge that we're facing, that we're playing after a season of 4 months, no performance, no activity. Even the country was in lockdown. The grounds, the stadiums, the training venues were not even maintained. We had to do all these things in a short space of time to make sure that we comply. So anything happening beyond our control, let's talk about it at a particular time. So I can't be predicting and being psychic about it and give you other when things happen.
Okay, I'm going to take 2 more questions on the ground, and then afterwards we go to the WhatsApp group. Members of the media who are joining us in the rest of the country, please send your questions now. We'll only take 3 questions from WhatsApp, please. ENCA.
Okay, afternoon, Chairman. I'm Shoni from ENCA. I have 2 questions if I can. The first one is just also around the compliance issues. I know previously the SAFA compliance officer, Dr. Thulani Ngwenya, had said that teams will enter the BSE 2 days before matches, and then there will be testing done. You've just mentioned, I think, Bloemfontein Celtic is arriving today in that BSE. Are you not concerned about that? And also, will testing be done, or has testing been done on the 4 teams? And what will happen if they do test, if there are any positive tests there? And then the second one is the Gauteng Premier, David Makhura, has just talked about Soweto being I think the highest in terms of the number of cases this morning. I know it's in a BSc anyway, but are there any concerns from the league around that situation?
Let's talk about the concerns, I'm saying, and I keep on saying, these are people going to work. Like any South African like yourself, you've gone to work under difficult conditions for that matter, either by taxi, by bus, by train, going to work. And no one of you has gone for any pre-testing. Only football has gone to pre-testing to mitigate the risk. So we've done everything possible. Unlike any other industry, even the mining industry, they just open and went to work. We've mitigated all those things to make sure that we don't give guarantees, but we do everything possible to know who goes into the bubble with the risk of being infected or being infected. So we've done that on our side. So we're doing that in cognizance of the environment around us. Because as we know now, there's no country that, place of the country that's not a hotspot. Every part of the country is a hotspot. So it means let's shut down the economy, let's all stay at home. Now, how are you going to rehabilitate that economy? So the president was very specific that whilst we are observant of the health issue, let us not further into making sure that we burden the economy not to be reopened again in the future, because it will be too costly for the country to do it. It's costly right now. Every day you get figures of how many unemployment is taking place. Now, everything must be balancing act. How you balance lives, how you balance livelihoods. That's what we've been trying to do in our own small way as football. And I'm saying we are unique in what we have done at the cost of millions of rands to make sure that we make it this, because the sport is an emotional one for supporters. They don't see it as a sport, they see it as a sport, but it's a business. It's people that are employed must go to work. But to make sure that we protect them because of the passion and emotion that they evoke to the supporters, to the people in the country, we've done that exactly. And it has worked in other parts of the world. So we've done that. Now, what Dr. Ngoyi was talking about is the requirement that, 48 hours before you go to the bubble, you must test. All the clubs have complied with it. There are two tests that have taken place. The first one and the second one, which is the most important one, the pre-bubble one, 48 hours before you go to the bubble. Then if you have done that, and only then you can go to the bubble. There are figures which I cannot talk about because they are the only people who can talk about those figures. What has happened? Because whoever goes to the bubble, you must be sure that it has been tested and it has been cleared. If you're not being cleared, you're out. And that is why we've allowed a maximum of 50 people in the bubble, depending how many players you want to take in and how many officials you want to take in. So that whatever happens, there's enough players available for you to make sure that you mitigate any eventuality that might occur in terms of being positive. But more importantly, FIFA has made it easier for us to have 5 substitutes. That's why the bench has been increased from 7 to 9 to make sure we allow enough players to be on the bench if you want to do your substitution. The substitution is also breaking in 3 phases, that the coach has got the right to substitute 3 instances where you can do the substitution to make sure to mitigate. Also the water breaks that has also been affected in terms of making sure that we mitigate what is unknown to us, but what has been a practice that we now see happening in the La Liga, EPL, and the Bundesliga. So those are experiences that we have learned, we are implementing in our situation. So on our side, we are on the side of caution. That's all we can do. Now, but don't forget, this is an employment situation. People going to work. But we've gone an extra mile to make sure that we mitigate the risk. But it's not 100%, by the way.
Benile, just one question. May I just ask everyone just one question? Then afterwards we'll go to the...
Just one.
Sure.
Okay. Just quick 2 questions. Chairman, the first one on the issue of compliance. The last time you had spoken about only one club which had not met the compliance measures. Are all 32 clubs compliant as things stand? We had a team that was struggling in the first division. And also you spoke about the new season possibly starting around the 9th. Will you still be using the same mode you're using now, the same PSE mode, or you'll be going back to the normal operation, or it's something that is still has to discuss?
The bubble is an expensive thing to have. And that's why we said that the application of the PSE is going to assist us as to whether it is going to be a template for the future or not. But for now, we can't say nothing because we don't know what the government is figuring out in terms of the levels. and of the sensitivity and the severity of the pandemic. We'll wait and see what happens at that particular time and come up with a strategy to mitigate whatever has been presented to us as a go forward in continuing the game. So for now, I can't make any prediction because only this for finalizing the whole season. Beyond that, I can't make speculation about that. It's going to depend on what happens. In terms of the teams, we have been given a report that most of the teams have complied, but what remains now is the 48 hours before going into the bubble. You must know the 48 hours depend on when is your fixture. And that's why today we're talking about 4 teams because of the fixture tomorrow. But the other 48 hours is going to depend when is the fixture of those teams. So when I read those other names of South Africa, those are catch-up games. First and Sundowns and Chiefs and catch-up games, then join the rest of the other teams. So teams have made those arrangements to mitigate the expense because it's too heavy for the teams to be there 6-7 days in advance because it's costly to them. But all that has been regulated by the compliance officers, both Lungis Ngame and Michael Murphy from the PSL. But the 2 doctors, Dr. Ngwenya and Dr. Pillay, they're all monitoring that situation. But for now, we made even those teams that were struggling are beginning to make sure that they comply. Fully, I only know after the time has come in terms of making out all the numbers of the people that comply into the bubble.
Batu, questions from WhatsApp, please.
Thank you, Chair. The first question is from City Press, and it reads, with amateur football still suspended, what will happen to the 2 promotion spots in the Glad Africa Championship that must be occupied by the 2 ABC Mutsipe League teams?
As a PSL, we have made available the 2 slots for the teams that are going to be joining us, from the ABC Mutsipe. It is not for us to make any pronouncements on what happens because we've done the constitutional requirements that there are 2 teams that are going to come up, and I know that there's an effort being made to make sure that there are 2 teams that are going to be joining us come the new season.
Next question, Fatu.
Right, the second question is from Sunday Times, and it's
Just tell us who's sending it.
It's Sazi Hadebe from Sunday Times, and he's asking as to whether when the new season kicks off, is it also going to be in the bubble?
I've answered the question.
That was covered already.
But you must not encourage the bubble because it's expensive. The cost now is almost 100 million rands. So you can imagine what it takes. It means we must have to wait if ever anything happens beyond the bubble. So I'm just saying that something must also be sensitive to save money. I feel for you guys. We don't have deep pockets, unfortunately, but they've tried our best.
The last question, I'll just summarize. It comes from different people. It's mainly to do with gender-based violence as well as Black Lives Matter messaging. Are there any campaigns that we're going to be doing this weekend going forward?
Yes, there are campaigns and messaging in particular that are going to take place, but this is an ongoing, kind of program. We're going to plan proper for the new starting of the new season to make sure that there's proper messaging in terms of voiceovers and also what happens on the LED boards. And now we're going to see what's happening on the draping in the stadium, but also some virtual, messaging that's going to deal with the issues that you are dealing with. But we wanted to confine ourselves in things which are not going to make us political going into the future. Because FIFA advises that you must always be careful when you deal with issues that are going to now be of a political nature. And that is why we're doing what we're doing, because that is on the agenda of FIFA, issues of racism, issues of gender. These are FIFA projects which we are latching on as a PSL and SAFA in this country. So, but any other thing, we need to be careful what we deal with in terms of making sure that we don't stray on the area which is going to make us into in conflict with FIFA. We should also advise that any political slogans should not be promoted on the field of play.
Chair, anything else that you'd like to add before we wrap this press conference up?
And I want to say thank you to the media, thank you to South Africa and the supporters in particular for their patience. And also thank you to the venue owners because it's been difficult for them to comply with our requirements because the resources that are required are not easily available. So we're doing everything in our power, and also the teams and the coaches must understand and that the stadiums that they used to, they might not be in those conditions they expect because we're in the winter season, we've been a lot of research, we've been laid off. So to get people on, it is a bit of a challenge, but we hope that it will meet the expectation in terms of complying with us finishing the season at the end of this month and the last game on the 5th of September. I want to thank the sponsors also once again for being very, very much supportive. It's been very difficult. Some leagues in the world, there are challenges in terms of penalties and things like that. Our sponsors, they never even thought about doing that. They were always encouraging us, nudging us to find solutions. More important, our broadcasters. The broadcaster has been very, very, very much on site. So I want to thank you. Also the staff in the PSL, they went an extra mile, especially the two CEO, Ms. Matoma Dlala and Advocate Mutlante, to make sure that the compliance issues are done in a manner that the department expect them to be done. So I want to thank them for the effort. They left office sometimes at 11 o'clock at night to make sure that they comply. So once again, I want to say thank you to them personally. So all the club chairmen, they know my feeling about this situation. Let's make it work, guys, because in the interest of the country, of our business are collapsing. If we are not going to make sure that we sustain and make sure investor confidence is maintained, we won't be around for a long time. But if we do what we said we're going to do in the Board of Governors, I'm confident about what has been discussed and been taken as a go-forward statement from all the clubs. I wish that the best team win at the end of the season. Wherever it is, better. I'm not going to talk about it. Let the games begin.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, everyone. That concludes today's press conference. We will be in touch virtually. Good afternoon.